Welcome to our Sunday evening service online for just a few more weeks until we resume in person. Thank you for all your feedback on the survey. We're looking forward to how we can promote fellowship, evangelism, give ourselves to doctrine, hopefully have some more life classes, some exciting things to see more Morningsiders coming out on Sunday night to our in-person services. So thank you for your feedback. Today is Valentine's Day, and so happy Valentine's Day to all of you. It's also the birthday of several Morningsiders. Happy birthday to Omar Barahona, to Valentin Campos, to Sam Coleman and Jennifer Harper. Also happy birthday to Jada and Jillian Webb. Both were born as twins on Valentine's Day. Tonight we get to not only have another opportunity to give, to partner with the Liaus in Indonesia. We're hoping to raise much of the $40,000 they need to build a gym on their Borneo campus. But we're also partnering with 4 different families to bring the hope of the gospel to Reno. The Wesses, the Keltings, the Gleisers, and also the Tilson family. And we're going to get to hear from them tonight as they continue their roundtable discussion with Pastor Smith.
So next, probably a question that comes to the mind of many is the financial needs of your family. How are those met? And another model that's being used is bivocational model. And would you all take some time to kind of explain how that works and how it's going to work for you and your family?
Yes, sir. Let me go ahead and give kind of a little bit of an overview of how it looks broadly, and then each of us can chime in about our families. Really, bivocational church planting has been around for a long time. Many men have done that with their families. What we're doing is a little bit of a hybrid where you're taking elements from the bivocational model and then adding a team element and then adding a mission support element. So typically you would either choose one of those paths, but not all of them. And each of them have some strengths, and what we're trying to do is gain as many of the strengths from each of them while minimizing the weaknesses. It's not a perfect model. We don't believe this is for everybody necessarily. It's the model that fits us the best. So in most missionary scenarios, what happens is you go on deputation until you get 100% support, or at least in the ballpark enough where your mission board's comfortable sending you out there. Were we to do something like that with our team, we would have a very indefinite time of when we should even move to Reno. And then, because one of us might get all of our support, but then what about the other one? And then what happens in between? And so we chose a bivocational model for 2 reasons. Number one, it helps us with some of the financial ends. It takes some of the pressure off of having to get 100% support. Now, we would all like to get as much as possible. That frees up our time here in Reno for the ability to minister to people. But that being said, it takes the pressure off of, we've got to get to a certain support level in order to be able to move and get started. So we have a current formal launch date for next fall, and we're only able to do that right now because of the bivocational model, because none of us are at 100% support right now. And so we are all seeking support, but we are all willing to work bivocationally. But there's a second philosophical reason that honestly has just grown on me more recently, I would say even after we started this process, and that there is a very strategic missional aspect to being bivocational, and that is it puts you in the community. It puts you right where you are. So it's probably obvious for those who are watching at this point that I'm actually sitting here in a military uniform, and the way this is timed out is I am squeezing a small part out of an officer training school for the Air Force that I'm currently sitting in, because I have been commissioned as a chaplain in for the Air National Guard base there in Reno, Nevada, the Nevada Air National Guard. And that is one of my vocations. I actually have another civilian job right now that I'm doing in Reno for the time being while we continue to earn support. And so, but what's neat about that is it's not just something that to make ends meet, and it's not just a means to an end. It's actually, if we're going to minister to the city of Reno, if we're going to reach the city of Reno, I need to be in the city of Reno, like not just physically there, but in and among the people in the community. And I can tell you very much that has happened as I'm working these jobs. And so that's what's going on with my family right now, is I have 2 different jobs that are going on right now. I hope to get that down to 1 at some point. But we have the 2 jobs. I'm continuing to make weekend trips as I'm able to do deputation to try to raise as much mission support as possible. And that will allow us to be able to support our family while we're in Reno and still leave us some time, even though it won't be full time, but leave each of us plenty of time to work on the church and do the church work. But then that pressure doesn't fall just on me or just on any of these guys that we need to have X number of hours in a week, because we can share that load together.
For my family, we are certainly seeking as much support as we possibly can, and the Lord has done well. We joke that we have done our deputation the last 6 years of traveling evangelism, so a lot of relationships and churches we've been to, and so thankful for the churches and even families. We found a lot of individual families have been willing to support our family, and we pray for that as a family each night. The Lord would increase that so that we may be more open, more free to pursue what it is we need to. Therefore, also, we another aspect of what I'm going to be doing is audio transcription. Basically, it's actually sermon transcription. I listen to sermons and then I type them up. I work for a business to do that, and that's a good thing. That gives me some flexibility, for I am still able to hold some meetings here and there. I'm not doing it full time, but that does open up that opportunity. So we're thankful for what the Lord has opened up at this point.
Yeah, I think James and Andy both said it very well. So I'll just, instead of talking about the philosophy of it, I'll just go right into my passion. I have had a business in the past that I could easily go right back to, but it's not as much passion to me. As James said, it's an opportunity to connect in the communities. So my heart's desire, what I'd love to do is be involved in some sort of youth training, particularly in the area of perhaps baseball, but it could also expand to other sports as well. And the benefit of being able to be involved in that kind of a bivocational ministry is the connections it makes with young families in the area. So I'm praying that God will allow me to make those proper connections to be able to do something that not only provides income, but also provides an outreach for families in the area.
For me, I actually grew up as an Air Force brat. My dad was in the Air Force for 28 years. And so I'm actually also considering the chaplaincy as well as one of the bivocational things that we'll do. At the same time, I've also had opportunities to grow and develop skills in painting and drywalling and things like that. And so I've also considered possibly starting a business or something like that in painting and drywalling, or just being part of a company that does that. So a couple different options that we're thinking about and praying about and considering, and yet just don't have a clear direction on that yet. I'm sure that will become much more clear as we set our feet there in Reno.
Thanks for sharing your unique perspectives on that. I love how God is leading with your unique gifts and abilities to not only help provide for your families, but to really connect with the people there in Reno. So what is like the next step for you guys and your team? I know you're all kind of at different stages, and how can we be praying for you guys in the next need, the next step, the next thing for you all? So maybe Stephen and James could talk about that.
I'll let James finish with this one. So I'll go ahead and start by just simply saying, I think it's good not to assume that because we have a great model, and it is a great model, that doesn't mean we desperately need God's blessing. And so in every church plant, there is a total dependency upon God being the one who is designing all elements of it, that it's spirit filled and driven, that it's Christ motivated. And so we just need people to pray that God would do the work that God has called us to do, and to be praying for the people of Reno. So James might talk more to some specific needs mechanically or whatever we might need. But I just want to say that just because it's a team model doesn't mean we're desperately dependent upon the Lord, because we are. And we just need people to pray to that end, that God would just go before us and do the things that we cannot do.
And I would say to that same point, just each for our spiritual health and our families' health as well, as we're moving our families, that all of our not only physical but spiritual health would be good and allow us to be as effective as possible, and that we would be self-dependent. I think the other big thing right now is we've had a lot of feelers out, and a number of people who are potentially interested in moving to the area to join a launch team for us by next fall. And we're really just waiting to start hearing back from some of those, and maybe even add some that aren't currently on our radar, that the Lord would build a team for us.
So let's talk about that next. You four and your wives and your family serve as the core leadership team, but you've also mentioned prayer for a total of 40. So that would include you. So another 30 to 32 people to come and join. And you're praying for that as a target of your launch date this fall. So a question that comes to my mind is, for these other 30 plus that you're praying for, what will their roles be like? And what are the expectations if somebody's interested in joining with you guys?
Well, honestly, I think I think of 1 Corinthians 12, where we read and we're taught that the Holy Spirit gifts everyone according to his will. And the Holy Spirit gives every individual kind of a unique set of gifts, a particular set of gifts that's unique to that person. And so as we start this church plant, we don't necessarily have slots that we're like, okay, we need somebody to fill this role. Though programmatically, functionally, we have that in a way. But at more important than trying to fill slots, we have a desire to have people come and join the church and commit to just being Christians who are uniquely gifted in the way that God has gifted them, and be Christians in Reno. So, we're convinced that that the Lord spreads his gospel through the ministry of his people, and his people building relationships within the community, and leading people, sharing the gospel with them, and leading people to a saving faith in Christ. And that happens with Christians being present there in the community of Reno. So one of the biggest expectations, I think, or desires that we would have is that Christians come to Reno to be Christians who are committed to this local church, and committed to seeing the Lord grow his church there in Reno. And that's really our heart. So if we were to think about like what roles look like, well, that really depends on who the Lord brings to us and how God has gifted them. And so that would be what I would think.
When this question is asked, my mind immediately went to 1 Corinthians 12. So I'll have to talk with Daniel later for stealing that. That is awesome. I could not agree more strongly with him on that. I love that. We need Aquilas and Priscillas. We need disciple makers. That's what we need. People using their own occupations, their own unique gifting, their own passions to make disciples. And by the way, if the Lord is prompting you in any way, I've been told by more people than I can count, you want a job, you can find one here in Reno. It is a booming economy for jobs. You're not going to have a problem finding a job, and you'll need to if you move here.
That's great. So then the next thing would be, if someone is interested in joining with you, what should they do? What would be those first steps?
Yeah, I think that they first of all just need to really commit themselves to prayer. There needs to be a lot of saturation and into seeking God personally, daily, about what he would have them to do, and be courageous. Because I think fear will be probably one of the biggest challenges that people have in this regard. It might be the thing we say, well, you need to pursue it, but they may not pursue it because they're concerned that God may actually call them to the place that they're praying about. But they need to be courageous, and then they just start asking questions. And of course, there will be places to turn to. If they're local here in the Greenville, South Carolina area with Dave, they can contact you, but contact any members of the team. We have our information out there, and each one of us will be glad to be able to assist in answering questions about the area. And then I would say this for myself personally, when I was considering what God would have me to do, I had to take a proactive step. I had to do something to pursue what I thought God was leading me to do. So for me, it was a trip. There's no way someone is going to be burdened for a place like Reno, Nevada, if they've never been there before. I should just say it's be unlikely. And so there's going to have to be some step of faith where they say, I will commit myself, and I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know how God's going to provide financially to do it, but I'm just going to commit myself to taking a trip. And I would like to go see it firsthand, meet the people of Reno, meet the team, and to just see how God will burden my heart for it. So pray, ask questions, and pursue. Take a step of faith.
I might even add to that. Just reach out to us so that we can start to get to know you, and you can get to know us as a pastoral team. When you move to a whole nother city where you don't know anybody, and it's important to in a sense be married to the philosophy and to the to what the church is going to be like, and make sure that you will fit that. And so I would say definitely reach out to us. We would love to get to know you, to start talking with any of you, and describe what the church plant, what our desires for it to look like, all according to God's will, of course. And so come get to know us.
That's great. We are praying with you guys that God will just work in hearts and connect you all with them, and praying for that goal of 40 in the fall. Thanks so much for giving of your time. We're needing to wrap up here, but before you go, if each of you could just share 1 to 2 specific prayer requests for your family, and as part of the joint effort, if you can share that, then that will help us in praying for all of you.
Sure thing. 2 things. We have 3 children, and I want my children to see God build a church. I want them to see his reality. So if you could pray for that. Secondly, my wife, Bryn, every other week ministers in a ministry called Scarlet Hope, which ministers to the young women who perform at the various clubs around the city.
Well, Andy stole my first one. I mean, I think we all have a burden that our kids, as we think about discipleship and disciple making, our number one ministry, all of us, are the people God has put under our roofs. And they are on this journey with us, not by their own choice. And so for them to just see God work and to be able to embrace what God is doing in the world with his gospel for themselves, not just something that they're tagging along with their parents to do, is a big prayer request of mine. And then just the, as was mentioned before, some of the financial clarity, that the Lord will continue to provide that, both through bivocational clarity as well as the support.
Yeah, for our family, we are praying, and we would ask you to join us in praying that the Lord would give us the grace to finish well where we're at. I'm currently finishing up my seminary work, and also working on transitioning the ministries that I'm involved in here at Faith Baptist Church as well. So we're just asking for God's grace to finish well here, and then also just asking for the Lord to give direction for how he is going to provide for us financially. And we trust that he will. We know that he will. And just so we're just asking for the Lord to grant us some clarity on that as we continue to raise support as we transition out there.
Yeah, and I'll just say one very specific concerning the next thing for our team, which is location. We are seeking the Lord about the right place to begin the corporate gathering of our church for worship and edification. And so that's going to be a very important one. COVID has made that somewhat challenging, but I think the Lord can answer that. And I just, I've heard so many stories of church planting that God just did miraculous things. And we want to see God do something miraculous, particularly in the area of location, a unique place for God to allow us to gather where we can really reach those people that are in that proximity, and to devote ourselves to them. So just pray that the Lord will provide for it, and it's in the right place for us to be able to do that. And then I'm just going to echo what Andy said to begin with. As we're praying all of us desire for our families, I'm very burdened for my 3 boys. My oldest one, who's finishing up 10th grade, I'll have for a couple more years before the Lord moves him perhaps on elsewhere for college or whatever the next thing in life is for him. And I just really want my boys to have a burden personally for the whole disciple making process. And I would love for them, particularly my oldest one right now and the ones coming up behind him, for them to see God do wondrous things through them in reaching out to some peer of theirs, initiating a relationship that brings them to the gospel and allows them to personally be involved in their growth process. And to see them do that before they leave the house and to go out, because I want that to be the pattern of their life. And so I'm just burdened for my boys, as I'm sure I can speak for the others as well, that we want our children to have a passion and love for the gospel, for the disciple-making process, so that they will go on to glorify God in their own lives.
Thanks so much for sharing that. Yeah, it's such a great need to see the next generation take the baton and have a burden for making disciples. And of course, planting churches is just the natural result of making disciples. Guys, thanks so much for giving time to share that. And then those that are interested, the website is hopeforreno.com, right? Did I get that right?
Got it right.
So if for those of you that are watching, I just want to encourage you, be praying for these 4 families and be praying for the Hope for Reno team. And please go visit their website and see what God is doing, and just pray about it. Maybe God would lead you to partner with them through prayer, through giving, through taking that big step that Stephen talked about, and maybe going out there. And there's many opportunities to find and learn more, and every one of them would love to help you. So thanks for watching, and please continue to pray that God will work through the Hope for Reno team for his glory.